Turning now to a cautionary tale for anyone who lives in a semi-detached home. A fight over major renovations has pitted two Toronto neighbors against each other in what's now become a bitter legal battle. Ryan Patrick Jones shows us how it all started.
This house on Waverley Road in the Beaches has become the site of a bitter feud between neighbors. Kathy and Pat Button own the home that's been torn down. The retired couple plan to move there from Waterloo once it's been rebuilt. They got approval from the city to build second-story and rear additions, a new front porch, and a deck with a basement walkout. Their next-door neighbors, with whom they share a common wall, initially provided letters of support, but have now taken their neighbors to court, claiming the project went beyond what they thought they'd agreed to.
And what we were sold on and what happened are very different things. One day, Tata and the kids show up and there's the absence of half a house. So what was supposed to be a renovation became a demolition and an excavation well into the back and almost a meter onto our property.
Because the whole structure is just shaking.
The Schifrins say cracks formed in their home, their backyard was dug up without permission, and squirrels and raccoons moved into the space between their ceiling and upstairs floor.
Children were afraid to sleep in their own bedroom.
When you get into a semi, this is the worst case nightmare that you can imagine.
The Buttons didn't want to go on camera. However, they told me by phone that they always had permission to partially demolish their home and to excavate the backyard, including digging 2.5 feet into their neighbor's property to build a shared common wall. They say they informed the Schifrins and other neighbors of their plans, shared designs, and that the scope of the project has barely changed. They also say they worked closely with the city and professional firms throughout the design and construction process. The city confirmed to CBC that the Buttons' initial permit allowed partial demolition and excavation to achieve their designs. But the work hasn't been without missteps. The project was hit with a permit violation in October. That's when workers took down what was left of two walls after water and termite damage was discovered during construction. A letter from a structural engineer the couple provided to the city states the walls were not suitable for providing structural support for the floor above and recommended the walls be replaced. The Buttons say they took the walls down immediately because they didn't want them to fall down. They say they informed a city inspector and applied for a revised permit. In the meantime, an order to comply was issued, halting work until they got a new permit. That came in March, and construction has since resumed. But now the dispute is heading to court. The Schifrins filed a lawsuit seeking $200,000 in damages. The Buttons are preparing their response and plan to refute the Schifrins' claims. This property lawyer, who isn't involved in the case, says you can expect to see more of these kinds of disagreements in Toronto's real estate market, where red-hot prices have people renovating rather than relocating. She says she tries to resolve neighborly disputes through mediation rather than going to court.
And then there's clearly a winner or loser, and then you have to live beside these people until one of you move. And it makes it a little bit more difficult to live beside your neighbor if you've lost or won a court case against them.
In this case, there are no winners, and the neighbors might not be living beside each other for very long. The Schifrins say they plan to sell. Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.